Good afternoon. I think we're going to go ahead and get started on our seamless summer option training for today, March 28th. This is Shanna Leger with the Louisiana Department of Education, and I will be talking to you guys today about the seamless summer option as a possible summer meals option once the academic school year for 2021-22 has come to an end. I think everyone on the call knows that this training is intended for school food authorities only. And so we'll be focused on seamless, again, as an option to provide summer meals to children once the 2021 academic school year has ended. Some broad categories that will be covered today in our training include seamless summer option operations in summer months, benefits of participation or to continued participation if you're a school food authority already participating under seamless summer option, eligibility criteria, the process in which you would be amending or revising your current year application to extend into the summer, and also waiver options under seamless summer option that are good through June 30th, 2022. We'll also address some of these waiver options that are available here under seamless that will not be offered under summer food service program. So we'll get into that a little bit later in the presentation as well. Okay, we'll start out with some general seamless summer option information. I think most school food authorities in the state are aware that the seamless summer option is basically the program in which the overwhelming majority of our SFAs are participating for school year 21-22, and that is via use of the USDA nationwide COVID waivers number 85 and 86. Those SFAs participating in seamless summer option have the dual benefit currently of offering universal free meals to their students and also of receiving higher reimbursement rates for the meals that are served under the seamless summer option. So those SFAs currently operating under this option are getting the SFSP or summer food service program reimbursement rates rather than the traditional national school lunch, school breakfast program rates. We did also want to stress that the option to continue to utilize seamless summer option during the academic school year does expire with the closeout of the current school year, and it does not appear to be getting renewed for school year 22-23. So USDA has kind of expressed to us multiple times now that they anticipate a near normal return to operations for school year 22-23, with National School Lunch, School Breakfast program being the primary child nutrition program offerings, or potentially the only. However, seamless summer option operations to be provided in the summertime when school is not in session are still an option for school food authority sponsors, as has always been the case, with a few exceptions and flexibilities that will remain in place specifically for the first portion of summer 2022. This will largely be the focus of today's presentation. So regardless of whether a school food authority is currently operating under National School Lunch, School Breakfast and or seamless summer option now in the current academic school year, if a school food authority intends to also host a summer meals program once the academic school year has come to a close, there are two options for them to proceed under. Option one would be to complete an application under the seamless summer option. And this process will be discussed in more detail later in the presentation. So that would be completed under your green school food service tab on the CMP website. And then there is also the option to apply under the summer food service program option. And that application would be completed separately under the purple summer feeding tab. So again, this presentation today is really predominantly to talk about the seamless summer option and what that would entail if you decide to go that direction. We're going to talk more about summer food service program or SFSP 2022 when we host those trainings that are specific to that program. So actually our first training for SFSP for returning sponsors is tomorrow, March 29th. And then we'll have a repeat of that the following week, next Monday on April the 4th. So if you're still kind of interested or not fully sure which direction you want to go in, you certainly can still register for one of the SFSP trainings on the Louisiana Fit Kids website. Okay, Just a brief sidebar, some important things that we wanted to make mention of in regards to seamless summer option. Please be reminded that that program does operate on a July 1st through June 30th program year. So it's identical to National School Lunch, School Breakfast program. It's essentially, it is an extension of those programs. So it operates same program year, July 1 through June 30th. Nearly all of the nationwide COVID-19 USDA flexibility or waiver options that were made available by the state agency to school food authorities for this current school year, 21-22, will remain in effect through June 30th, 2022. As a reminder, opting in or opting out of these waivers was a required part of your school year 2021-22 school food service and seamless summer option application process. So at this point, every SFA that's on the call, they should have made an election either to opt in or opt out of every one of those waiver options that we made available for school year 21-22. And we'll talk about where to access those and where to make changes if changes are warranted for actual summer operations. But at this point, everyone should have made an election in some manner on every one of those waiver options. Some other important things that we wanted to make mention of in relation to seamless summer option is that the SFSP rates of reimbursement will continue to be applied towards reimbursable meals served and reported in the June SSO claim for reimbursement. So if you decide to continue your operations once your school year ends, let's say it ends in late May, you decide that you do want to do a June program under seamless summer option, you would continue to get those higher SFSP rates of reimbursement for that month. Also, non-congregate feeding options that were presented to school food authorities for school year 21-22 under National School Lunch, School Breakfast, or seamless summer option. All of those remain in effect or are available for you to opt in under if you have a program that you're going to operate that will require things like that. So some things that we did want to make mention of is under seamless summer option, there will be the ability to issue more than one meal at a time if there's a need to do so. Program operators could essentially issue up to 5 days worth of meals at a given time, but USDA has indicated that for seamless operations, and even with all these waivers opted in for non-congregate feeding, no more than 5 days worth can be issued at a time. The home delivery model as well can be an option under seamless summer option for May and or June. And also parent and guardian pickup could continue to be utilized. Of course, you will have to have a waiver request on file through your CMP application that reflects an opt-in under these program flexibilities. And the state agency will have had to have approved it in order for you to make a change or to initiate these types of processes. We'll get into this a little bit more later in the presentation. So basically, in short, what we were trying to say with a lot of words on the previous slide is that school food authorities can continue to operate in the same capacity that they have been operating under, or they can do so with even more flexibilities added if there's a need for them in the summer months through the seamless summer option. And when we get to slide 10, you'll see a detailed listing of all those waiver options that you had previously made elections for. Again, since the seamless summer option operates on a July 1 through June 30th timeframe, those school food authorities that are already approved and operating under the seamless summer option for school year 21-22 can revise or AKA amend their current year application to extend operations further into the summer. But note that since the program year ends on June 30th, as do the associated nationwide waivers, to continue to operate a summer meal program beyond June 30th would require either the submission of a separate seamless summer option application for the new school year 22-23, with a reverting back to standard National School Lunch, School Breakfast rates of reimbursement and a loss of non-congregate feeding option, or a switch over at that point to the summer food service program for July 1 and beyond, which would of course require a separate submission under the purple tab of the SFSP application, which is always one sponsor level application and as many facility level applications as supporting sites you have. So I think the important thing to stress from this slide is after June 30th, non-congregate feeding is no longer going to be an option. It's not going to be an option under summer food service program at all this summer, but it will be an option for those that need it and are approved to use it under seamless summer option up until but not beyond June 30th. If you are planning to have a short-lived program, maybe one that just operates for a few weeks in June, and you know outright that your program is going to end on or before June 30th, it would probably be wise to continue to operate under seamless summer option. You'll have flexibility still available. You will still get those maximum SFSP rates of reimbursement. And you already have an application approved. So it'll just be a revision with some simple updates and adjustments, basically a streamlined process to revise and continue into that program. But of course, all school food authorities do also have the option to switch over to SFSP at the point in time that the academic school year ends, or to do seamless for the month of June, and then to roll over into SFSP July 1. But we'll talk about that a little bit more on later slides. So we did want to stress again that it is the school food authority's responsibility to check waiver options that are currently opted into, aka elected for use of, or those that have been declined for program year 2022 to determine if any further edits are going to be needed in order to support the seamless summer option, summer operations that you wish to offer. So for example, if you're a school food authority that plans to extend under the seamless summer option, let's say through June 30th, and you know that you're going to have curbside pickup at some of your sites, and you have some sites in mind, you would not be able to revise your application, get approval, and begin serving in that capacity without also knowing that you are covered under those waiver options that are also a part of the school year 21-22 application. So to log into the system and double check to see what you're currently opted in under in terms of waivers, you would log in under the CMP website as you normally would do. You would click on the green school food service tab. It's going to default you right now to program year 21-22, which we're currently in. You'll click on forms on the left-hand side, and then you'll click on waivers. So once you review all those waivers and what your current elections are, if you realize that you will need to make changes to some of those waiver options, you will need to email the state agency at Child Nutrition Programs, with an S at the end, at la.gov, and put something in the subject line, preferably school year 21-22, SSO waiver election, something along the lines of waiver adjustments. And then you would need to indicate in that email which waiver by name, as it is listed in the website, would need to be released back to you for further edits. Once state agency staff has released any of those waivers that you're requesting to have released, they will email you back and notify you that they have been released back to you for further edits. And then at that point, you could opt in, for example, if there's some new waiver options that you want to utilize in the summer program. So this is a busy slide, but this is a recap basically of what your waiver screen is going to look like when you go in under your green school food service tab and you click on forms and waivers. This should be what it looks like from your end. This was just a screenshot that I randomly took of, I don't even remember which SFA, but they had basically opted out of a lot of these different options at the start of the 21-22 school year. So in this example, the only waiver options that this SFA had elected into was the option to allow sodium flexibility and the option to operate under seamless while receiving those higher SFSP reimbursement rates, which is fine because that's, you know, in alignment with how they were operating for school year 21-22. However, if this SFA were to decide that it wants to extend and revise its seamless summer option application and continue to provide summer meals to children once the school year ends, and they want to do that with some curbside pickup sites, they would then need to get some of these released back to them and opt in under them. So the items that we have circled in yellow on the slide would definitely be areas that the SFA would want to look into to be able to do curbside pickup in any capacity, the SFA would absolutely have to elect use of the nationwide waiver to allow meal service time flexibility in school year 21-22, and the nationwide waiver to allow non-congregate feeding in school year 21-22. The third option that we have circled is basically optional. So the SFA would then have to decide at those curbside pickups, do they want to allow parent guardian pickup to occur on behalf of children, or do they not want to deal with that this summer and just only issue the meals to the children who are eligible themselves? So they would make that decision, and if they decide they want to do parent guardian pickup as well, that would be another waiver that would need to be released back to them so that they could opt in and request approval from the state agency. Some more important things to note regarding seamless summer option and waiver elections would basically be that for those that have used these flexibilities in the past, remember that we have certain forms and supporting documents that are needed with some of these different options. So for instance, if you were planning to do parent guardian pickup again, and you decide to elect that waiver, and you have a process set up in place for your seamless summer operations, you would need to ensure that you have the appropriate parent guardian pickup form or roster that you're going to utilize to track those issuances. If you are planning to issue more than one meal at a time, or if you're planning to issue multiple days worth of meals at a time, then you would need to utilize that multi-day daily meal count form again. All of these forms that we're referencing here should be available on the CMP website without login required. If you go in under the school food service, memos, resources, and then click on forms, and I think it's just under the general SFS forms category. Again, remember in terms of like alternate point of service, if you have multiple locations where you're issuing meals at a given school, so you may have some type of program that's occurring on site, you're feeding kids on site in a congregate setting for that program, they're going to the cafeteria to get their meals. That would be one point of service, and that would be one process that you would use to document those meals. And then you may also have simultaneously or at a different time, curbside pickup happening at that location. We would expect that you would have supporting documentation for that point of service as well. And that when the two forms are put together, that would support the meals that were claimed for that site for that day. So just remember, if you are doing point of service at multiple different locations, you always have to have something in support of your count for each location in which you're issuing meals. And then this is where it gets a little tricky, the home delivery plan. So if any sponsor, any SFA is considering utilizing that option again, it can be used, but everything that was in place previously still applies. So if you did do home delivery at some point in school year 21-22, you were approved to do so, you submitted a plan to the state agency, you elected the waiver through the CMP website. If you were going to pick up where you left off with that and do the same exact plan, same menu, you are good. You're covered through that currently approved plan that you have in place with the state agency. However, if you did use it at some point in 21-22, but now you're going to deviate from that original plan, you're going to have a different process, different number of days worth of meals that are being issued, or a different menu, you will need to submit that plan, that questionnaire plan to us again to explain how you plan on doing the home delivery model in your summer operations. So if anything changes from your previous approval, or if your approval was from a prior school year, that would not cover you currently. You would need a new form submitted, reviewed, and approved by the state agency. And of course, you would absolutely need to have that waiver election opted in on the CMP website with approval for that. And then remember that you'd have to have on file as well new opt-in forms. So you wouldn't be able to just start, adding additional households or residences on your route without having something that documents that that family did request to opt in to start receiving these meals in a home delivered capacity. Okay, I think you all know that SSO is the topic of this training. However, it is important to note that if your school food authority is already approved and operational under the seamless summer option for this current school year, This add-on or basically extension of operations for summer month feeding would be done in a pretty streamlined, simplistic manner through creation and submission of a revision of your current year SSO application. And remember that this is the Seamless Summer Option Program. The application itself is referred to as Seamless Waiver. When you go under your Green School Food Service tab, on the left-hand side under Forms and all those other claim links, you'll see Seamless Waiver, and that is actually where your Seamless Summer Option application is stored. So to request for extended Seamless Summer Option operations beyond the closeout of your current academic school year, the School Food Authority would need to amend, aka revise, its current application for program year 2022 and update the associated operating calendar, or calendars plural, depending on how many you have in place, to extend/add additional dates of operation. And then we want to stress that you would apply those changes only to the sites that would continue to operate under SSO once the school year has ended. So you may have 40 sites currently operating under Seamless because you have 40 sites under your School Food Authority, but only 15 of them are going to continue to operate through June 30th. So you'd revise the entire application, you would update the calendar or the calendars templates, and you would only apply those additional dates to the 15 sites that will continue to operate. So you wouldn't need to do anything to those other 25 sites that will not continue. You just need to update the ones that will extend their operations. In terms of when we would like to get this revision, ideally the later that you can submit it or the closer to the end of the academic school year, that's going to be the better scenario. Anyone that is currently in the process of receiving an administrative review, if you submit this too early, it could get really confusing for the review team because you're revising sites, you're adding dates, you may be changing proposed times of meal service, you may be changing ADP for what you anticipate in the summer, and then that gets approved and that basically trumps any previous revisions that you had in place. So the closer to the start of your actual summertime activities that you can revise this, the better. And then also we did want to stress too, with summer operations, sometimes we do see that our sponsors find that changing meal types sometimes is beneficial. So, right now through Seamless, you might be offering breakfast and lunch at every one of your sites. But in the summer, when you condense your program and you offer services at fewer sites, you may have some sites that want lunch only. You may have some sites that really just want lunch and PM snack, and they don't think that they would benefit from having breakfast. So if you foresee that you're going to change meal service types at any of your sites once the academic school year ends, please contact us directly, because if you file that revision to the application too early, you're going to have some big headache when it comes time to file that final claim for May, and the claim's probably going to be broken and require some work on our end as well as on the back end. So if you think you're going to change meal types once the school year ends, please contact the state agency directly so we can talk about it. Okay, next slide. This is a little late in the presentation, but we did want to talk about eligibility a bit. So in terms of who is eligible to participate in the Seamless Summer Option, that would be our public school system. So like our parish school boards, our private school systems, our parochial school systems, and our charter school systems. So any of those SFA types that traditionally participate under the National School Lunch and or Breakfast Program are also eligible to participate in Seamless Summer Option. And that's always been the case, but historically, we really didn't have high numbers of SFAs that participated under Seamless Summer Option in the summer, because historically, the rates of reimbursement that they received were equal to National School Lunch, School Breakfast. And then Seamless Summer Option also has this kind of strange midsummer split in program year. So a lot of our sponsors that wanted to operate in June and July, they realized that to do so under Seamless, they had to complete 2 separate applications that span 2 different program years. And so a lot of them just said, well, we're going to do SFSP instead. But of course, this summer and the most recent academic school year was an exception to this rule. And that was because of those nationwide waivers provided by USDA. Who is not eligible to participate in Seamless Summer Option as a sponsor? So that would basically be any non-school food authority summer sponsor. So any of our usual SFSP summer sponsors that are not school food authorities, such as our governmental agencies and our university-based sponsors and our private nonprofits, per federal regulations, they're not eligible to participate in seamless summer option. So this presentation and the details provided therein would not be applicable to them. They would have the option to continue operating under summer food service program only. And then certain school food authorities, such as residential childcare institutes, are typically not eligible to operate seamless. However, again, this school year was an exception to the rule because of these nationwide waivers. So RCCIs are still, eligible to operate under seamless, and they'll have that option through the end of the academic school year through June 30th. But once June 30th rolls around, RCCIs really will only have the option to apply under the new year application for school food service for national school lunch and school breakfast. And that would be effective July 1st forward. And that is because USDA anticipates the plan to return to near normal operations, NSLP, SPP, for school year 22-23. Some benefits to operating under seamless in program year 2022 after the school year has ended. So again, we talked about how anybody that's currently operating under seamless now, you would just be revising that current application that you have on file sometime in May. It's a pretty simple application. It's 1 page per site. Again, you're not necessarily going to have to revise it for every site because you may not be extending your program at all of your sites. So it'll be a pretty streamlined application. Another benefit would be, through waiver number 86, if you extended your SSO operations through June 30th, but not beyond, you would still be able to continue to receive those higher rates of reimbursement, those SFSP rates. We have these non-congregate waiver flexibilities that are available if needed for school food authorities through June 30th, but not to extend beyond that. Again, non-congregate feeding is not going to be offered under summer food service program for summer 2022. Meal pattern and menu that's currently in use, if you're operating under SSO, that would still continue to be compliant, if compliant now, because the seamless summer option requires use of national school lunch and school breakfast program menus. And then there also is an additional simplification too. So in the summer months under the seamless summer option, SFAs do have some flexibility in terms of which age grade group they're going to offer. So if you have a high school site and you still plan to predominantly serve high school students at that site in the month of June, you could plan to offer the 9 to 12 age grade group to all children that report to that site during the summer operations. Okay, so we were kind of stressing when should SFAs revise and amend their SSO application. So again, as we've already mentioned, the closer that you could do this to the end of your academic school year, the better. Ideally, if the SFA could wait to do their revision until after their final claim for reimbursement for the school year has been done. So you submit your May claim for reimbursement, and then you go into the CMP system and revise your seamless summer option application. That would be ideal. However, we do generally just recommend, please give us at least a week notice in submitting your revision in terms of from time frame in which your summer activities are going to begin. So if you're planning to have a break, maybe your school year lets out, I don't even know what day this is, but May 18th. And you plan on having a little bit of a break and not starting your SSO summertime activities until June 1st, you could submit that revision to us, the following week after the academic school year ends. You filed your May claim, you come back to the office the following week, and you submit and revise that seamless revision. And that would give us at least a week's time to process it. So if you think that you're going to have any difficulties with timelines and this application revision process, please contact us directly so we can talk about your particulars. In terms of what will be revised in the 2022 seamless application, if you do decide to extend your operations into the summer months. It really depends on how many sites you're going to continue to operate and how many operational calendars you're going to have at play, and as well as whether or not you're going to change the meal types. So it's just really, it depends on how complicated things are going to be in terms of dates of operation of sites. Are they going to be consistently operating on the same exact schedule with the same exact meal types and the same exact time? That would be a pretty simple revision versus are you going to have all these different staggered calendars? And then remember again that under the seamless summer option, as well as under summer food service program, the max number of meal types that can be offered per site per day is 2. So like we mentioned before, you may be doing breakfast and lunch now, but some sites may request in the summertime that they want to have lunch plus PM snack. That's an allowed combination, but again, we don't want to break your claim. So it would be best and it would be ideal if you could file that May claim first for breakfast and lunch meals served, and then work on your revision to change meal types, and also contact us if that change in meal type is going to happen like mid-month. So if there's going to be any point in time or any sponsor that has like breakfast and lunch happening at one site the first half of May with a change over to lunch and PM snack once school lets out in the later part of May, we definitely need to know about that so we can make sure that the claim system can support that. What will need to be revised in your 2022 SSO application? Continued. So generally speaking, when you are planning to revise your 2022 SSO application, you should be prepared to probably need to update the following. So serving times for meal offerings, you have all that documented now for what you're doing in the school year, but very likely you'll want some different serving times in the summer months. You might want to bump the start of meal times back a bit, and that can be done during the revision. Also, the estimated number of students to be served will likely change at the sites, and it could go up or it could go down. It really just depends on what your operation is going to be. You might be consolidating 5 school sites into one during the summer operations. So you may need to actually up that number that you currently have reported for meal service. And then site type, of course, is subject to change once the school year ends. So you may be operating right now strictly closed enrolled sites, just your enrolled population of students, just the children that are enrolled to be there. And then in the summertime, you want to change to open site types, where you're feeding your student population plus community kids 18 and under. So site type definitely is subject to change. And another note on site type is that when I mentioned previously that most of the nationwide waivers were going to expire on June 30th, there actually is one that will expire before that, and that is how sites or how they establish their free eligibility under the seamless summer option. So there was a waiver that will expire with the end of each SFA's academic school year. And basically all that really means for you guys is that if you do plan on extending your seamless application, you do plan on revising and adding some calendar days sometime in May, more than likely the system is going to make you reestablish how you've derived your eligibility to give free meals at each of your sites. So even if you were a closed enrolled site and you plan to remain a closed enrolled site, when you click to revise it, you're going to have to go to that drop down and you'll be presented with a new listing of schools based on what we had to come up with on the back end to be compliant with USDA's removal of that waiver. So it may just be fewer school sites in the list, which is fine, but I just want to let everybody know that that is a waiver that will be expiring at the end of the academic school year, and it's custom for each SFA, and you will more than likely have to reestablish free eligibility at each site that's going to continue to operate, which shouldn't be a problem because we should provide that data to you in the application. Some other pertinent items relating to 2022 SSO revisions. So if you are considering the home delivery model, please do contact us to kind of talk that out one-on-one, because that can get a little confusing in terms of claiming. So we really need to figure out what your plan is, how many sites or system-wide you're going to be doing this, and basically what's going to be the best way to claim those meals back. Some systems may have a hybrid system in place where they have congregate feeding happening at X, Y, and Z locations, plus a home delivery model that's feeding all the other enrolled kids at the other schools. So we just basically need to talk it through and figure out what's the best setup for the online application and where's the best location to claim those units. Also, and we generally try to stress this every year, but as a state agency, we're really a big fan of the sponsor comments section in the online application. And I think that's really important here for seamless summertime activities. So each one of your facilities does have the option for you to add some sponsor comments to it. So if you're going to be doing something that's like a hybrid operation at a location where you're doing like cafeteria based meal issuance, and then you're also doing curbside, you may report, multiple shifts for lunch, and you may give us the starting and ending time for the cafeteria meal service. And then shift 2 might reflect the starting and ending time for your curbside issuance. Well, under sponsor comment, you can tell us that so that we know what that distinction is between the shifts. And that's really helpful in understanding your application and then comparing it back to the waivers that you've requested. And then we did want to stress too, just be reminded that if you do choose to go beyond the academic school year into the summer months with Seamless, you are just revising school year 2022 program year application, but you're adding to it. So you're not subtracting or taking anything from it. So any dates that were previously approved, that were previously operational, you want to keep them there. You do not want to delete them. And you just want to add above and beyond any additional dates of operation and tie them back to the school sites that are going to extend their operations under this program. And just like with any other child nutrition program, the state agency, must make sure that it's compliant in terms of audits and the time frame in which they're required for each school food authority. We do have some flexibilities that are provided to us through federal regulations that allow the state agency to skip seamless summer option audits, and that just depends on the timing of the administrative review on school side for each SFA. So even though you may technically need to be up for review for an SSO audit, if you choose to operate this summer, we may be able to exempt you because you've already received an AR in school year 21-22, or potentially because you're up for a review in 22-23. So you may not have to receive an audit separately for SSO. But then again, you may have to, depending on when your last AR was. And if that is the case, you certainly will receive notice in writing from the state agency and or from CN resource staff to let you know when that review is going to take place, what type of review it's going to be, virtual versus in person. And then, of course, any sponsor that wants to get any technical assistance from the state agency, whether or not you have a review coming up this summer, you can always request that at our general email address, childnutritionprograms@la.gov. Okay, so we're nearing the end of a very jam-packed presentation. So again, we just kind of wanted to refresh you guys and just put a reminder slide here at the end. So remember that seamless summer option, it operates on that July 1 through June 30th program year. So if you are planning to do a summer meals program, but you know that your program is going to go into July or possibly even into August, that can be done certainly. Of course, the usual rules apply. If you're doing SSO or SFSP in the summertime, you cannot still be offering those programs at the time that the school year starts up. So you can't have an overlap in NSLP, SBP with any other summer feeding program. It has to end before the school year starts up. But there are 2 options for any operations that you want to do July 1 and beyond. And I think we've kind of talked on those already, but basically if you want to continue to get covered under Seamless, that would require you to put in a new separate application that would be effective July 1 and beyond. And that would be basically a program year 2023 application. So that can be done. We can work with you to make sure that you get that application in timely. Just be reminded that if you do choose to continue Seamless into July and beyond, those non-congregate options will no longer be available, and you will default back to national school lunch and school breakfast rates, whatever they may be at that time. We haven't received those new rates yet. Also, there's an option to operate under Seamless through June 30th. And then at that point, if you're still going to be operational at some sites in July and beyond, you could certainly at some point in June complete a summer food service program application under the purple tab that reflects calendars for July only or July and August. That gets tied back to the sites that will continue to operate in July and beyond. So again, SFSP does not have the non-congregate feeding option this summer, but it does have those higher rates of reimbursement. So if you did switch over after June 30th to SFSP at select sites, you would continue to get those higher rates of reimbursement. But of course, you would not have the non-congregate option. You wouldn't have that under seamless effective July 1 anyway. So there are two different programs in which you can get coverage for July 1 and beyond. And with that one exception being that RCCIs, they're going to have to default back to National School Lunch and Breakfast effective July 1. So that was a lot of information, probably covered in about 30 minutes or so. And I'm sure you guys have questions, and I'm sure there's some things that you're thinking about that I didn't even, get the chance to touch on. But we'll take some time to answer some questions here today. And then, of course, if you think of anything later, you can always email it to childnutritionprograms@la.gov, or you could also email me directly, shanna.leger@la.gov. I think most people have my email address. But if you have anything that's specific, a specific question in terms of, your plan to operate in the summer months, if you think you're going to go back to non-congregate feeding, or if you think that there's some waivers that you now need to opt into that you're not currently opted in under, or if you think that you're going to change meal types once the academic school year ends, please contact us so we can kind of talk those through. Don't wait until the last minute to try to figure out how to reflect all that and how to plan for that. But again, we'll take some questions now, and then if you think of anything later, just contact us at the general email address or give us a call.
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions yet, but we'll give it another minute. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type it into that comments box, and we will see if we can answer it for you. Okay, well, I'm still not seeing any questions. So like Shanna said, anyone, you can email childnutritionprograms@la.gov. You can call the phone number on this slide, 225-342-9661, or email Shanna directly. And we are happy to help out in any way that we can. So thank you all for joining us today, and everybody have a good afternoon.